In the fall of 2022, I moved into a small apartment complex in upstate New York. It wasn't fancy, but it was cheap, quiet, and just a short commute to work. The building was old, the kind where the walls were thin and the floors creaked no matter how lightly you stepped. The first few weeks went by without incident, just the usual sounds of neighbors going about their day. Then I started noticing him. The man in apartment 6B. I had never actually seen him up close, just glimpses, his door cracking open as I passed in the hallway, the flicker of movement through his window when I got home late at night. There was something off about him. He never left the building. No grocery bags, no takeout deliveries. Yet I could hear him moving at all hours. At night, when everything was quiet, I would hear it. The scraping sound, slow, deliberate, like something heavy being dragged across the floor. It would last for minutes. Then stop, suddenly. I told myself it was just furniture being moved. But the next morning, everything in the hallway would be exactly the same. One night, just past midnight, I woke up to the sound of my front door handle rattling. I froze. The sound was soft, almost hesitant. Then, a slight pressure, like someone was testing if it was locked. My heart pounded as I sat up, barely breathing. After what felt like forever, the pressure eased. Footsteps shuffled away down the hall. I checked the peephole. The corridor was empty. But something caught my eye. The door to 6B was slightly open. Just enough for a single eye to be watching me. I stumbled back, heart hammering. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I went straight to the landlord's office. I asked about the guy in 6B trying to sound casual. The landlord frowned, flipping through his paperwork. "There is no 6B, he said. I laughed, thinking he was joking, but he just shook his head. The complex had 6 floors, but no apartment 6B. It hadn't existed in years. That night, I lay awake, listening. The hall was quiet. Too quiet. I finally gathered the nerve to check. My feet barely made a sound as I approached where his door should be. But when I got there, the hallway was smooth. No door, no number. Just an unbroken stretch of wall. My stomach twisted. I had seen it. I knew it was there. Then, from inside my apartment, I heard the sound. A slow, deliberate scraping. This time, inside the walls. In the summer of 2023, I moved into a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio. It was the kind of place where everyone kept their lawns perfectly trimmed, waved politely, and left their porch lights on at night. I had rented a small house at the end of a cul-de-sac, right next to a house that had been vacant for years. The realtor told me it had been foreclosed, abandoned by the owners almost overnight. The house itself was old, but not in a creepy way, just weathered, forgotten. At least that's what I thought at first. The first time I noticed something strange was my second night there. I had been setting up my bedroom when I caught movement through my window. A light flickering on and off in the empty house next door. I stood there for a moment, watching. It blinked once, twice, then stayed on. I rationalized that maybe an old circuit was still connected, something faulty. But as I turned away, I saw it. A figure in the upstairs window. It stood motionless, just beyond the glass. Too dark to make out details. Just a shape. Watching. I blinked and the light snapped off. The next day I asked my neighbor across the street if anyone had been inside the house. He just gave me a confused look and shook his head. "No one's lived there in years," he said. "There's no power, no running water. Bank owns it now." I forced a laugh and brushed it off. Maybe I had been seeing things. Maybe it was just a trick of the light. That night I made sure to keep my curtains shut. But around 2 a.m. I woke up to the sound of knocking, not on my door, on my bedroom window. My stomach dropped. I live alone. There was no reason for anyone to be outside my second-story window. Slowly, I turned my head, heart hammering. The curtains were still drawn, but the knocking continued. 3 slow, deliberate taps. I reached for my phone, debating whether to call someone when suddenly, my phone screen lit up. A notification, a text message, from my number. 2 words. Look outside. I couldn't move. My body locked up with a fear so deep I could barely breathe. The knocking stopped. The air felt thick, charged. I reached out, hesitantly, gripping the curtain. Every part of me screamed not to do it. But I had to. I pulled the curtain back in one swift motion, and there was nothing there. I barely slept the rest of the night, every shadow in my room stretching too long, every creak of the house feeling wrong. I convinced myself it had been a dream, sleep paralysis, stress, anything but real. But the next morning when I stepped outside, I froze. Footprints, leading from the abandoned house across my yard, ending right beneath my window. And they were mine. I moved out a week later. I never found out who or what was in that house. But sometimes, late at night, I still wake up to a single text message. Look outside. In the winter of 2023, I moved into a rental duplex in a small town in Pennsylvania. It was an old building split into 2 units, one on the ground floor and one in the basement. My landlord told me the basement unit had been vacant for months, so I didn't have to worry about noisy neighbors. That was one of the main reasons I took the place, peace and quiet. The first month was uneventful. The neighborhood was calm, mostly elderly couples who had lived there for decades. But one night, while I was watching TV, I heard something. A dull thud. It came from below, from the basement. At first, I ignored it. Probably just the old pipes settling or something shifting in storage. But as the days passed, the noises continued. Heavy, dragging sounds, like furniture being moved. Sometimes I heard muffled voices, low, barely audible, but definitely coming from downstairs. One night, curiosity got the best of me. I went outside and walked around to the basement windows, expecting to find the place dark and empty. Instead, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The lights were on. I stepped closer, peering through the dirty glass. The unit had been stripped of furniture, just bare floors and exposed pipes. But in the far corner, near the old furnace, there was a chair, and someone was sitting in it. They weren't moving, just sitting perfectly still, their head tilted downward, like they were staring at the floor. My breath caught in my throat. I stumbled back, nearly slipping on the icy ground. I raced back inside and locked my door. My landlord had said the unit was empty. No one was supposed to be there. The next day, I called him. I tried to keep my voice steady, asking if maybe someone had rented the basement without him telling me. His answer sent chills down my spine. "No one's rented that unit in over a year," he said. "The last tenant left in a hurry and never came back." I asked why, but he hesitated. Finally, he admitted something no one had told me before. The last tenant had complained about strange noises and the feeling of being watched. One night, they woke up to find their closet door wide open and a set of muddy footprints leading out of it. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house made my skin crawl. I convinced myself I had imagined the figure in the basement. Maybe it was an old mannequin, a trick of the light. But deep down, I knew better. Then, one night, I woke up to a sound that made my blood run cold. A key turning in my front door lock. I shot up in bed, heart hammering. The doorknob rattled. Slow at first, then more urgent. Someone was trying to get in. I grabbed the heaviest thing I could find, a lamp, clutching it as I moved toward the door. Then silence. I stood there, breath held, waiting for something, anything. Finally, after what felt like hours, I peered through the peephole. No one was there. I barely slept that night, but when the sun came up, I forced myself to check outside. I walked around to the basement window, half expecting to see that figure still sitting there. But the chair was empty, and on the window, written in the dust with a single finger, was a message. I used to live upstairs. I moved out the next day. Sometimes, the scariest things aren't lurking in the dark. They're living right next door. If these stories sent chills down your spine, hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more terrifying true horror stories. And don't forget to hit the bell icon. Because sometimes the real horror is closer than you think.